coaches out there that are just starting off with programs that need to get some advice on how to make their athletes faster and stronger?
I suggest they read. I have a library book that's high, all from overseas. I have nothing from the United States. I do everything that Verkhoshansky said. If you look at Verkhoshansky's work, he handled very, very heavy weights, maximum liver weights, 90% and above, and on the other side, all jumping or bounding or plyometrics. And for us, because we, they were throwing, shot puts, javelins, and just, well, we have to lift enormous amount of weight, and people have to run over large people. So that's why we in the middle of the jumping, which we do, and the super heavy weights that we do, we put the dynamic method in there. And if you look at explosive strength training, it's basically trained at 40% for the majority of the time. 30s and 40s, mostly 40s. So if you look at our squat program, where I say we train at 50 to 60% of 1 rep max, while we wear briefs, we get to wear the gear to meet. But if you look at it, and with 25% accommodating resistance at the top. So if you take 50% of bar weight, and you had 25% accommodating resistance, 75% at the top. All right, and then 55 is 80 at the top, and 60 is 85. All right, and why is this important? Because 50% of all the greatest weightlifters in the world, 50% of the training was between 75 and 85%. That's speed strength. And you can't do speed strength without accommodating resistance because you have bar deceleration. When Dr. Fred Hatfield came up with CAT, compensatory acceleration training in the late 70s, early 80s was a great thing, but he didn't have bands or chains. So as fast as he would push a weight, of course, he did have bar deceleration, but by using bands or chains, as you well know, you eliminate most of that deceleration. And the advantage of bands over chains is overspeed eccentrics. People don't realize the faster down, the faster up. I've done several studies with 10 units, and the faster down, the faster up. I'd like to mention one study that a counselor professor did for me. It was on Matt Smith, at the time Matt had a 930 squat, which became an 1160 squat. 3 singles on the average with 550 pounds to his parallel box, and we did this in time. He eccentrically 9/10, concentrically 9/10. Just remember, how fast you go down is pretty much how fast you go up. We took off some of the weight, and we added band. So when Matt stood up, it was 750 at the lockout, and with band shrinkage, according to the counselor professor, it was 550 on the box. Matt got up at 5.4, and it was 5.4 and 5.45 and 5.57. We actually moved 200 pounds more, the same distance, 3/10 faster. If this doesn't apply to exercise science, we're missing the point here in America.
Absolutely.
Overspeed eccentrics.
I want to ask you about your new machines, your inverse curl machine, and how it's going to strengthen the posterior chain, and generally your glutes, your hamstrings, and then again your lower back, and what it's going to do for all the athletes out there. And not just athletes, also the powerlifters that are listening and watching.
The inverse curl machine, basically the inverse curl exercise, was invented by the Soviets for Olympic weightlifters in track and field. As I decided to go ahead and make a machine that's just because anyone of any body mass, you can't really do one, So by this, has a mechanical advantage. The more weight you put on, the easier it is to get back up, and you take off more weight. The more you take off, the harder it becomes. So and it's a full range hamstring, where at the knee and the hip it works simultaneously.
You were at UB for 5 years. I played football my senior year.
No, Gary Franks, he played 9 years. He was the strongest man in the world. He said, well, for Tyler, he never got in the NFL. John Belmore, I didn't know this, but he called me in 1994. This guy's 6'6", 326, and jacked. And the hip machine opens up the hips an amazing amount. It was hurt me for a year. It got worse. I taped it for a month, and then I broke it. It snapped. They thought it from my knee out. I hope you're finding that up there. It was a side value to us. We didn't realize, we know we're tight, so we didn't know we're that tight.
Right.
And a lot of athletes come in, their glutes are sticking out the back 3 feet like a native from Africa. And after all these years of college, didn't want to pick this up. They needed a posture change, too tight in the front of the hips.
Sometimes that will result in an anterior pelvic tilt and
Exactly.
stretching the hamstrings, all that good stuff. So for all you athletes out there, powerlifters, or anybody else listening, you want to check out these new machines. They're available at westsidebarbell.com. We've got some in the gym. There's some down here. You want to get one of those and get yourself stronger and faster.